Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for October 26th through 30th. How are you doing? Well, wow. Here we are. Really intense times. Tomorrow, very interesting. We've got Mercury retrograding back into Libra at the end degrees of Libra, and Venus moving into Libra, her home sign. Really interesting. And the picture is like bookends at the beginning of Libra, at the end of Libra. These are personal planets. So it's about our daily reality, our daily life. And Venus loves being in her home sign of Libra. And it's bringing forward this desire, this energy for peace and justice and harmony and love and beauty and the world we really want to see. And how what we're being shown is so much not that, and then Mercury retrograding back into Libra. So Mercury moving back into Libra is bringing it into a square with Saturn that we're going to feel for 2 whole weeks, which is very rare because Mercury is a fast moving planet. It's typically like just moves right along. So the fact that it turns direct just past it goes, it moves past Saturn, turns direct and comes back. So we're already feeling, starting today, this Mercury square Saturn, and today, tomorrow, and then we're going to feel that through the 10th of November. So this is a very important message for us. It's the only square we've got just coming off of the Mars square Jupiter energy. So the Mars squares are over for a while. Mars is going back to 15 degrees of Aries, and then we'll turn direct on November 13th. So no big transits with Mars right now. And so this transit is coming to the foreground, and Mercury retrograding back into Libra, this desire for peace, harmony, justice, the world we want to see, love, relations, being able to talk sense to the people around us, and so really interesting because Saturn has just moved off of its conjunction with Pluto. They were a couple of degrees apart together, a couple of degrees apart. Now, Saturn and Pluto, big player planets, Jupiter thrown in the mix. This was the definition of the 2020 astrology. They only came together, Saturn and Pluto, exact in January. And it was just like, whoa, here we go into 2020 drama, right? Now, Saturn has moved beyond. It's going away. It's coming out of that conjunction with Pluto, and they're not going to come back together for a long time. And so Saturn is heading towards Aquarius. Jupiter's direct, Pluto's direct. Our backdrop has already started to change. Out of the darkest dark, we have 1 more week of Mercury retrograde. So we're in this corner. We're turning the corner. And that's exactly the message of this Venus moving in to Libra, Mercury retrograding back into Libra on the exact same day. So bookends, chapter, we got to get out of this one, right? So it's like, can we still just move somewhere out of the nightmare, right? The darkest dark is completing of 2020. And so Saturn's on the way to Aquarius in December. Jupiter and Saturn is not that far away. I know we've been in this weird tunnel. We're like never going to make it through 2020, but just a few short weeks, Venus and Saturn triumphantly together, moving over into Aquarius, marking that official beginning of the Aquarian age. And wow, total solar eclipse, very close to the galactic center in December as well. And so Saturn is speaking to us. Saturn is in Capricorn. It's always laws, rules, organization, building the structures, karma, and in Capricorn, it's like just can be a dogmatic kind of energy of like, we got to do it this way, and this is the way we've always done things. And you're kind of seeing this play out in the world, the old long held establishment and programming and agenda coming up against new energies, new ideas, true justice. We'll just consider that one for a minute, right? So Saturn is kind of like, well, there's something else over here. I'm kind of on my way somewhere else. I'm kind of doing this thing. And Mercury retrograde back in Libra is speaking to the laws and the rules and the karma and the structures of the reality that are no longer serving who we are. And it all has to do with justice and harmony and peace and relationships, relating, being able to love and connect. And here we are in forced separation, silenced, and clearly injustice all over the place. It's like hoping that we just forget that there's something, like our natural, innate, God-given rights that we're born with, and reflected in constitutions and the Bill of Rights of like, this is what is justice, and we're so far away from that, in this deep-seated distortion, darkness, corruption coming to the surface. And yet Venus in Libra and the energies of Libra, it's like, let's work this out. Let's harmonize. Let's just find some peace. Let's enjoy some beauty. Let's, just relate and have fun and be at peace. And it's like, this is the message here with this 2 weeks. It's going to be really close, Mercury in square to Saturn for a week, the first week of November, but we're already feeling it in almost 2 whole weeks of this energy. And so it's a really important message for us. The bookend has to do with this. The end of the chapter has to do with this. We can't move into the new age or get anywhere out of the 4D nightmare, dark tunnel from hell until we have justice. And it's interesting energy because justice brings us that feeling of harmony and that feeling of peace. And yet, in order to get to justice, you have to speak out and speak your truth and stand up for what's right and good and true. That's what this Mars retrograde is about. So what an interesting energy, huh? Because we got this bookend chapter highlighting Libra energies, and then this Mars retrograde in Aries about standing up and speaking your truth and being who you really are and fighting for what's right and good and true. The spiritual warrior coming back into the energetic warrior, that a different way to fight rather than get engaged into the lower vibrational frequencies. So really interesting energies. And like I said, one more week of, this is the main energy we're feeling, one more week of Mercury retrograde, and then that square to Saturn of like, the old way can't take us where we're going. Now, the other thing we're feeling this week as we move into this might be one of the most powerful full moons of 2020, full moon in Taurus on Halloween, just a few days before this, just this buildup of energy of the US elections that has a reverberating effect all over the world and all over the omniverses. And so leading up to this full moon that happens on Saturday, the 31st, is the sun. So the deal about this full moon is that the moon and the sun together in Taurus, the moon in Taurus opposite the sun in Scorpio, the moon in Taurus is just right next to Uranus, almost right on top of Uranus for this full moon. So Uranus and Taurus is about radical change that needs to occur in our relationship to physical reality, our relationship to wealth, our self-worth and feeling worthy. So supernova soul, this is all on the table right now. The message is that, like, what if the only thing that's keeping you back from that bigger self, from your true path and purpose, from the higher vibrational frequencies, from feeling better, from the 5D energies that are way more supportive to who you are, what if the only thing that's keeping you back is this feeling like you don't deserve it? And it's like, well, that's a simple concept. Can't we just work that one out? Except for it's deep-seated programming from traumatic past lives and keeping us not even willing to acknowledge that that bigger self and that bigger, more true reality exists. It's almost like rather than face our low self-worth and deal with that deep, dark, hidden, dark night place, we'd rather go along with the program and pretend that that spiritual reality doesn't exist, even though that's just so much more true for everybody, but particularly for the supernova soul. It's the only thing that makes your life make sense. So we're at a very powerful turning point here in this full moon in Taurus, exactly conjunct Uranus, is putting it all on the table. And then, so that means the sun in Scorpio is opposing Uranus, and we're starting to feel that today, and we're going to be feeling it increasing like all week, just like building up to this full moon. And the sun is our identity, and Scorpio wants to have something real and truth and meaning and purpose, like, let's get down to it. I'm so done with this, right? And this deep desire to have a meaningful life. And your meaningful life is exactly that bigger self, that true identity of you and your spiritual identity that you don't think you deserve. And so it's like just a really interesting time. It's kind of like, this is the concept that brings it all together, of all the strange journey we've been on for 2020 and what we're doing here. And there's this energy of like, I'm seeing this picture of like, kind of like playing a video game and you're like really into it. And it's like, you're just super in the video game. And it's like, there comes a point when you have to just, whether you're losing or winning, whether you lost or won, you got to just turn the game off and do something else, right? Like, this is where we are. It's like, turn the video game off, do something else, go outside in nature, it's just like the juxtaposition of the fake reality and the more true spiritual reality is getting so extreme, and it's giving us an opportunity to pop through. And I'm seeing this picture. Now, Venus says this is her last day in Virgo, and she's had this beautiful experience in Virgo of blessing Saturn and Pluto as they separate out for good, trining up with these planets, trining up with Uranus and Earth trine for the whole month, just like keeping us focused on the beauty. And now moving into Libra, her home sign, tomorrow, and celebrating the good, the true, the beautiful. And there's this picture, I saw this picture of like this corn. We've been talking about the popping corn and getting your popcorn and all that because we're watching a movie, but this idea of this time has been so weird, and it's so excruciatingly painful to deal with the world the way it is for an aware and awake soul. But there's something very powerful around this separation that Venus and Virgo kind of represents. And as she culminates and moves home to Libra, the separating of the wheat from the chaff, and that this time, this divergent timeline energy, and like the people invested in the fear and the clinging to the sinking ship, and then those that are on the ascension path are getting so black and white, right? And this is a gift for us because it's showing us that who's with us and who's against us. So there's an energy coming up that a lot of souls, it's like a past life thing, but it's also blooming in current energies of like recognizing how much supernova souls, recognizing how much they've turned their light down, turned themselves down, fit into a smaller package to make the people around them feel more comfortable. And that has to do with being attacked and targeted in past lives. And so this energy is really powerful. And we have to understand there's a message coming through around there's a bloom of this energy, that as this divergent timeline thing happens and 3D, 5D separate out, there's the subconscious energy working through, or energy working through anybody who's unconscious, that is like a hatred and an anger towards the light. That's just what's played out in the Piscean age, you know? And the problem is that we as supernova souls took it personally, that persecution. And that's what got us stuck in these lower personality constructs, that are trying to die and fall away in this ego death process that's so painful, but so beautiful at the same time, coming into who we really are. That's the sun in Scorpio opposite the moon and Uranus, like the reflection of who you really are in the meaning and the purpose and the truth of who you are as a soul. And this world, the way it's playing out, is trying to put that all in the garbage, like it has no worth and no meaning. And yet you hold all of the abundance. You are that beautiful, ripe corn that has now been revealed. Like what we've been doing is peeling back the outer layers so that that fruit can come forward, that abundance of who you are. And at the same time, we're having this separation energy and understanding that as you come into your light, the play out of this old persecution energy is making the energies, the unconscious energies and the 3D energies around you, you might feel attacked. That's also evidence that you're shining. You're starting to do it. You're owning that abundance. And you're letting the light shine, of the light of the sun that you are as well, shine. And but it's kind of a weird energy because it's like triggers you right immediately, subconsciously. Like it's like an energetic attack, and you're subconsciously like triggered into that smallness of protecting yourself and hiding. And yet that's the opposite of what we're being called to do right now. Is to step into that light and own it and shine it. And once you establish it, you feel so much better. You don't care. And this is an interesting energy I'm seeing. Like we're on the verge, this justice chapter, this bookend in Libra is saying, we've got to have more true justice on this planet if we're going to ever get anywhere. And that means we've got to have truth. And that's going to be painful for a lot of people. But there's this energy of recognizing, us being, or, if you've been in this aware consciousness of like, oh my God, this garbage playing out, what the hell, get me off this planet, but there's this energy of like, oh, this has been an interesting experiment in tyranny, total tyranny. And nobody wants to call it for what it is. Nobody even cares. Just do what you're told, and nobody wants to stand up, and the quarantine isn't about staying safe from a disease. It's about keeping us from organizing and keeping us from coming together and keeping us from sharing and growing this spiritual light that's coming onto the planet. And it's kind of like this interesting energy where I feel these supernova souls getting empowered, especially with this Mars turns retrograde, November energy. Mars turns direct, and running with this personal power, this spiritual warrior energy, and kind of being like, hey, you guys, nice experiment in tyranny. Have fun cleaning that up, because the cleanup crew, those of us that have been siphoning and taking on the garbage and recycling all your crap for all these thousands of years, we're off duty, man. Have fun cleaning that up, because we got a party to go to, right? And it's a beautiful picture of this ripe corn goddess, this abundance of the supernova soul. And recognizing this Taurus energy is about recognizing a shift. Uranus brings radical change. It's like a revolution. And the revolution we're having is in wealth, our concept of wealth. And it's like we bought into that wealth is things and objects, right? And it's like, now we're seeing how the parasitic world is playing out. We're seeing how the 3D, 5D, about how like the precious commodity, highly sought after, if you have a connection to life force, is like sought after through the narcissistic energies, just like feeding on you because it's becoming more and more rare. There's your wealth. That's the wealth. So turn off the video game. you know, like you're never going to win that thing. And it's like using this, everything that's happened for us right now, as far as saying, okay, these are the people that are with us. This is who's against us. Don't bother there. Let them have their mind control. Let them have their tyranny. Let them have their mess. And the cleanup crew is off to other business. And, the business of spirit and source and activation and ascension and truth, and that true abundance. And then we're coming to that place where it's like, okay, so all that, you got all that. And then it's like that one thing holding you back. It's all connected with fear program and loyal contracts and all that stuff. And it's past life traumas. But, whether or not you feel worthy of this abundance. And actually, not feeling worthy of this abundance and that deep-seated low self-worth programming actually also validates that abundance. Like, why would you have that big distortion around it if you didn't actually have that abundance? And it's time to step into the light and shuck the corn, get cooking, get popping, turn off the video game, and see the gift of this time that it's allowed us to separate from, to go inward to what really matters, and to be really clear who's with us, who's against us. There's no question of the narcissist energies right now. It's so clear. And now it's time to more deliberately come back together with our soul group, soulmates, soul groups, energy, these supernova souls, and grow this light. Focus on this light, focus on this truth. When you meet soul group members, it immediately validates who you are, right? So if you have this beautiful, sought after, high commodity, high value commodity of connection to your own source, then you are that sought after commodity. And if you knew that you were that commodity, if you knew that you had the spiritual connection, the spiritual light, then the people around you wouldn't be able to feed on you anymore. So it's really important that everybody around you play the role of painting a world of who you are for you that does not include your spiritual truth and your spiritual purpose. Because if you figured out who you are in that abundance, you would never want to feed those lower energies anymore. So we have to understand that this is all getting revealed to us right now. The commodity, the wealth of the real wealth of the world, you got it. Turn off the video game and stop feeding the lower energies, and kind of understanding that lack of spiritual validation in your life. And it's almost like those loyalty contracts, like, well, if I bring them with, then I can go. If I get them on their spiritual path, then I can get on my spiritual path. And it's like, it's too late for these games. It's too late. We got to go. And know that everyone, by existing, has a direct connection to the divine if they want it. It's there. It's right there. They can also choose mind control and programming, and maybe they haven't worked through that yet, and they need that. You have, because that's why you're awake and aware and able to listen to this gobbledygook, So it's time to run with it and own the abundance of the gift of who you are. Separate the wheat from the chaff. See clearly that those energies with the unconsciousness and that persecution playing out may attack you for your light. The more you own your light, the more those energies are going to attack you. They're going to be angry at you for cutting off their food source. And the people out there, just random, might have a reaction to you in their field. And that might be very uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's validating you're doing it. You're going to stand up as that abundant fruit of the light, and own this beautiful, precious gift that you have, that you've worked so hard for, and why your life's been so intense, why your whole Earth evolution has been so intense, because you have the wealth of the world. So that's the energies. And big, powerful energy around the old guard and the old way, and it's got to fall down, and it's not going to be pretty, but we are at that turning point, and the intensity building around these issues through this week leading up. So I hope you'll consider joining me for a live activation. And if you can't make it live, it's still live. It's still encoded, the energy. We're working outside of time here. So if you can't make the live time, know that when you do watch the replay, it's still live for you. You'll still get your questions answered. And that channeled message is coming through in just the way that you need to hear them. So that's going to be the day before on the 30th of October at 7 p.m. in US Mountain Time. And that's just 12 hours before the actual full moon, just leading up to 12 hours before the actual full moon. And really important, because this is one of those crux moments of the video game, of the dark and the light and the timeline war and the whatever else is going on here between the forces that want to keep us as artificial intelligence slaves and keep feeding on our life force that we didn't know we had, and those that want to bring in the spiritual ascension, which is happening anyway. There's no stopping it, right? So turn off the video game and be in your abundance, and get ready for being, the next chapter ahead, because we're in the end of the darkest dark. So hang in there, and I hope to see you for that full moon activation. The time before this full moon, leading up to this full moon and after this full moon, incredibly crucial around establishing and holding that higher frequency vibration. This is the last battle energy, where the energies that want to continue to create trauma and drama and fear, try to use these potent moments to do that. And it's like we're just right there at the edge, of moving beyond, tipping those scales to the frequency that cannot allow that negative creating anymore, And so this is like a triumphant moment, and very powerful, that the full moon is exactly conjunct Uranus. So expect unexpected. Uranus is unexpected. It's synchronicities, it's pathways trying to come in, energies trying to come into your life, radical change, and insights. It's the higher mind. So it's like, be open to insights that want to come in directly about your desires for a deeper, meaningful life, more true to who you really are, if you can figure out that you deserve it. And it's like, wait, if you are that, then how can you deserve it or not deserve it? So these are the mysteries we're working with. And so I look forward to seeing you on the next update or at that full moon activation. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.